Hi everyone. For today's video, I'd like to take a look at Boeing and just to kind of illustrate that Boeing is a very difficult stock to trade for the huge company. So if you take a look at the market cap right there, it's about 130 billion. So it's very institution friendly. Now, as always, let's just take a look at the checklist to see if Boeing is a good company. I had the fundamental checklist right here. Looking at the sales, it has been improving. Um, Actually, kind of mixed. Up 4%, 35%, 28, 18. So it's really mixed. And then on the earnings, it is also somewhat mixed. On the guidance, they must have guided something good because on the latest earnings report, which is this one right here, it had a very positive reaction. So overall, the fundamental for Boeing is mixed to positive. But now let's take a look at the technical by looking through the weekly. So let's hide this. This is a very frustrating stock because it chops around a lot in the base. So if you look on the weekly, I drew a Dolvis box on this range. This is starting from January until June. So for 6 months, it just did nothing. It just chops back and forth from around $195 to $215. So really didn't do a whole lot while the rest of the market was really having great gains. This even though it shows that's how even though it shows green here, but you really have to pay a lot of attention to the slope of the line. So generally speaking, during this basing period, which starts from there going to here, the slope of the line is generally going down, which means that it has been underperforming the index. It wasn't until over here it shows a little bit of improvement, which was induced by the earnings. So relative strength wise, if you look on the daily chart, it is a little bit clear. So this was that same basing period from January of this year to June. It just went up and down, up and down. As you can tell from the daily relative strength line, generally speaking, from here January to June, it really has been going down. The 50-day moving average is also was trying to curve down, was trying to concave down, which is not a good sign. Was in the stock, traded around it, had some gains, had some losses. At the end of the day, did not make that much money. Now, as you can see right there, I sold it for a loss here, but then gain here. It was just quite mixed. All right. But another thing that I like to highlight is this stock is quite choppy. So as you can see, a lot of the ranges are kind of wide by the height of these candles. So this candle right there is super wide, has a little bit of gap, and then another wide drop, got picked back up, dropped again, just kind of choppy up and down, up and down. It's really not consistent like these few trading sessions right there. Did it show any improvement since this past earnings? Not quite. So even though it was doing well, but it only did well for a few days, maybe just these few days, and then it kind of went back to being choppy. Most likely, this is because it is news driven. So if you look at the RS line right there, from here to there, generally speaking, you can see that it's going down, which is not a good sign. Now let's take a look at the accumulation. Are there any signs that this stock was accumulated by the institutions? There are signs, as you can see on the weekly, that this was bought by institutions with these large bars after these heavy selling in this period of underperformance by the slope of the line. This is a period of outperformance. So as you can see, some institutions were accumulating shares around, in the 150 range. Let's take a look at the recent action during this entire basing period. The volume has been pretty dry when it when it broke out of that base, the volume was only a little bit above average volume. This earnings was good, but here we are, 6 weeks or 5 and a little bit weeks later, this stock has given up basically most of the gains. Now let's take a deeper dive into the daily. Um, so nothing has changed since the most recent earning, even though it popped 8.7%. It really went back to its old ways, like when its choppy ways. So it pop up and down. So adjust the height of these candles. These are very wide ranges and big swings. Down a few days, up a few days, down a few more days, up a few days, down. But generally speaking, this is still very emotional. Most likely, it was driven by news. So this stock is really not ready. With today's action, it even made it even less ready because it went below the low of the earnings day pop. Looks to me like this is going to fill that gap right there, and it may chop around this range yet again. Maybe you'll find some support around $200 and just go up and down between 200 and maybe 215 to 20. Not sure. We'll see how this thing plays out, but it is not a ready stock to be purchased. That is it. Thank you very much.